thousands of Egyptians converged in Tahrir or Liberation Square for another Friday rally, this time in opposition to an anti-protest law issued by the cabinet.
This is not acceptable, and this is why a lot of people are here today, because we've started the revolution because of the people who went down into the streets, and the cabinet that we have now came because of demonstrations, because people demonstrated and sat in Tahrir for weeks to bring that specific cabinet.
The law has yet to be approved by Egypt's Supreme Council of Armed Forces, but once it takes effect, it will prohibit strikes, protests, and sit-ins that pose a risk to private and state-owned enterprises. One of the main motives behind the law is the country's economic situation following the revolution. Egypt's stock market plummeted by about 10% on Wednesday upon reopening after a suspension for nearly 2 months. The decline persisted on Thursday and Friday. Despite the economic worries, protesters say everyone should have the right to express themselves and demand basic rights.
A lot of those workers that are on strike, they're not asking for a wage or anything. They're asking for the corrupted official to leave. And this could be done by one decision. So instead of criminalizing their act, why don't you hear their problems and give them a plan of when you're going to fix it? Or fix it.
The perpetrators could face a jail sentence and fines up to 500,000 Egyptian pounds. But a significant section of Egyptian society are poor and can never afford to pay such hefty penalties.
If you look at the Egyptian, the average income, and you have, I think 40% are below $2 a day, so you can keep them in imprisonment for forever. So it's absolutely ridiculous. If they start arresting people under this law, I think people will rise again.
Many protesters are finding the law to be undemocratic and even offensive, since it was mass protests that led to the revolution. Another protest took place outside the Egyptian state television building with similar demands. Protesters called on the army not to ratify the law. It was the current Prime Minister Issam Sharaf who submitted the law to the Supreme Armed Forces currently in control of Egypt, although during the revolution, Issam Sharaf was among the millions who took part in demonstrations at Tahrir Square.
How come that only 3 weeks ago you were totally with and supporting the revolution, now you are against it? 180 degrees of change went directly.
For now, the people of Egypt are waiting for the Supreme Armed Forces to make a decision, and if the law is passed and enforced, protesters say they won't obey such orders. Protesters also demonstrated for accountability to hold former President Hosni Mubarak under the court of law. They also stood in solidarity with the people of Libya. Ehab, Zahriyeh, Press TV, Cairo.